Hi, welcome to Awakenings Within. Who's with us? Say hello. One day I am going to get that to go longer. I promise.
That would be good, or at least fade it.
I promise.
Abrupt. It's too abrupt for me.
It's like, bam.
It's like falling off the cliff. The musical
good morning.
Cliff. Suddenly we go into this like gorge of nothing.
So good morning, everyone. Who's here? And mugs up. See,
Mugs
mine goals just want to have fun.
Sounds
Because,
like a Florida cup. I mean, sorry, looks like a Florida cup.
Hey, good morning, Heather. Good morning, Larry. Well, guess what today is? It is International Women's Day. We are honoring.
I have to shave my legs.
That means we don't.
Oh, got it. Okay. I was wondering how do we identify with in honor of the women,
Women's Day. So good morning, Heather.
Well, thank God for women.
Yes. I honor you, Heather. Why?
Because we wouldn't be here without them.
That's right. That's right. I'm a total.
All of humanity owes our existence to the women.
So good morning.
They are kind of important. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so we're going to do a couple new things today. Ooh, new things.
Well, hey, just one little quick thing before you get into
please.
that. I don't know. We have a little community of people here that tune in, and one of them who is very, very close to me, my friend Mike, lost his mom a few days ago.
Oh.
And, he's such a dear, close friend, and probably not on this morning. There's a lot going on, but I just want our community to send out thoughts and prayers for him and his family as they he just jumped on.
Good morning.
So I just want to send our thoughts and prayers out to him and his family this week as they're processing all of this transition. And of course, this whole pandemic has been about a season of loss, and when you start losing parents, it just adds to everything. So anyways, let's keep that family.
Yes. Michael, sending you much sympathy and love. Sending you much.
Okay. Now on to happier things.
Okay. Sorry. Yes. Thank you, Michael. I'm so sorry. So, okay. Well, Charles said, ask any man, every day is Women's Day. I don't know. It wasn't
if I
always
ask a woman, sometimes they would probably challenge that.
But we'll get into that. Yes. And in there, you've got your support of your community here, Michael. Yeah. We're so sorry. Yeah. So yes. So International Women's Day. And so what we're going to do this morning, which is going to be something new, is I'm going to try to go on Clubhouse at 9 a.m. Now, Clubhouse is a new platform for anybody. It's not just entrepreneurs. I think at first everybody thought it was just for marketing, sales, entrepreneurs. No, it's got every variety of subject on there. And I think, and we'll talk about it when we're on there, but there's an etiquette to it. So what it is you have moderators, and they have a little green star that they're the moderator. They are up on stage, as they call it, the stage, and they are the ones speaking. And so they can ask anybody in the audience to come up on stage and speak. So they'll bring up a subject matter or something to add, and they will bring people up and people will ask questions, that kind of thing. So you have a mute and unmute button on there. So when you go up on stage, you have to make sure you're muted, because that's one thing that irks everyone if you're not muted, if you're yelling at your dog and you're on stage. But so I want to try that this morning at 9 a.m. So if you guys are game and you have an iPhone, unfortunately, it's only on the iPhone platform right now. It's not for the Android. They're bringing it up on for the Android eventually. But the reason I wanted to try this is just so I know that some of you, Michael included, you always say, hey, let's have a Zoom so we can talk. And I know Larry is familiar with Clubhouse. I've added Heather myself, so I think she's been on there a couple times. But it's a place for people to discuss things. And you can get in like a small intimate room too, and just talk about things back and forth. And I think it's just been a good platform for people. Like I was listening to MC Hammer yesterday.
Oh, wow. Now that's a blast.
MC Hammer was on there. Last week, Kanye was on there. Elon Musk was on there. So, I mean, big names are on there too, but not big names are on there as well. And and what's really nice about that is that they do actually give people the chance to speak and to ask questions. So you can, somebody you follow or you like a lot, you can actually follow them on Clubhouse. And when they go on, you can hear them speak, and they give really valuable tips especially if you're following someone in business or, just somebody that you admire. But like for International Women's Day, which is today, I was thinking about that. I was thinking about our guests that we had on last week, Grace, she was a pioneer, she was a pioneer physician. Most women were not physicians at that time.
Yeah. This is in the 50s.
Right. Yeah. Right. And so that's why I honor her so much. I listen to her stories and her husband tells a lot of her stories at this point, but, she just, she created that developmental chart. That was the coolest thing. I was like, I used to use this in my clinic in Virginia, so that's how far reaching somebody that's a pioneer, does, things that people use over and over in their jobs. They don't realize there was a creation to it, and somebody created that, and you didn't even know who it was. And it was her. And that was amazing. And, so I honor her, Grace Holmes, definitely Dr. Grace Holmes. So she's one of my people I wanted to highlight today, for International Women's Day, because she to me, I admire her, getting to know her and so that kind of thing. So at 9 a.m., I'm going to start the room now. So Bob, do you know how to get on there?
Well,
does everybody know how to get on there?
You seem to be the expert in this.
Now,
when have anybody ever said that you were on the cutting edge of technology?
No, this is the funny thing is I have been asked to moderate certain rooms and stuff and get pulled up on stage, and I don't say anything. It's weird. I go introvert. I don't know what my problem is.
Well, it says on my phone, start the room.
Start the room. There we go.
Is that what you do?
Okay. I'm in there. You can start it too, because you're a host. Yeah. Are you there? You're not in there yet.
I know. Okay. Well.
So.
I haven't ever used it before. Am I in there?
No, you're not in there.
I'm in another room. How do I get in your
Bob
room?
is the only Awakenings Within live stream. You should be able to. You're a
join the room in progress. Now we're going.
Okay.
Something is happening.
Something is happening. I don't see you yet, though.
Awakenings Within live stream recording.
Share the link. I sent it to you, Michael, in Facebook Messenger.
I see Heather.
You see Heather? Well, how come I don't see anybody? Hold on. What room am I in?
I don't know.
Where are you guys at?
I went to the link. I see Heather in there.
Okay.
Awakenings Within live stream recorded, it says.
Yes. Okay. I do not see it.
I just pulled my headphones out.
Where? It's my own room and I don't know where it is.
Sandy can't find the room. That's because you've been sent to the cloak closet.
Here, let me follow you. I'll click on you.
There's Michael.
I'll see where you are. Okay. Where are you?
It says it was Michael and Heather and I are all in a room. I don't know whose room we're in, but it says Awakenings Within live stream recorded. And there's a little thing flashing around my head. Like a little halo is flashing. What does that mean?
Hold on. Let me go to my own room. Chill.
I'm going to move to audience. There we go.
Happening now. Open an app.
Wait, it says I'm a speaker.
Join the room. You are a speaker. Okay.
Oh, there's Sandy.
Yes. So, I was wondering if it would have feedback.
Yes, I got to mute me. Down. Okay.
Okay, so we can bring Heather and Michael up on stage.
Cool.
So
it's kind of like they should name it Soapbox.
Okay. How do we bring them up on stage is the question.
So this is Monday morning. Learn how to use Clubhouse session.
Okay. Okay. So
I know what this is. We're having class this morning.
We are trying to do this. Okay.
Well, I see you.
Well,
you're muted.
I'm muted, but I can unmute myself.
Okay.
But I'm a moderator. Okay, you have to make me a moderator. Even though
I do?
Yes.
How do I do that?
It says
I'm going to move to audience. There we go.
Yes.
There we go. I moved to the audience. I got off the soapbox.
Why did you move to the audience?
Wait, I got to shut my phone off. There we go. Because I'm hearing you twice. Like I feel like I'm schizophrenic here.
So here I can make Heather invite to speak. Okay, Heather, I invited you to speak. And then I'm inviting Michael to speak. Now, and I'm inviting you back to speak because put yourself back up in this section.
Has invited you to speak. Join as speaker. Okay.
But remember to mute as soon as you come on.
The phone, when you do that, my phone like wants to kick in, but I'm having to mute it because otherwise I hear two me's and two you's, and then I start thinking I have psychological problems because I'm hearing voices.
So Heather's not muted. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, now I'm hearing it through your mic back to me.
So Michael, say something.
I said there's other reasons to think that, Bob, than just today.
Okay.
What?
All right.
Wait, now how do I hear see, this is the problem. How do I hear?
How do you
turn it up? Then you're going to hear me.
You hear. Yeah. If I'm doing it through this stream.
Okay. Well, I didn't hear what
Heather,
I know. Mike had a smart ass comment,
something.
but I couldn't hear it.
Heather, say something. Heather, say something.
Hello?
There she is.
Yeah, it's very faint.
But make sure you mute your mic after you speak.
No, but I'm saying it's very. If you're wanting it to be heard on the video, it's very, very faint. You can barely hear it.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Say.
Can you hear me now?
Okay.
Yeah, it's gonna go through there. There's a way to do it directly in.
Oh, is there?
Try that out next week, but I just wanted to try this out.
Okay.
And I want to ask you guys. Okay, I need to turn myself down a little bit. I wanted to ask you guys, who do you follow as a woman? Who do you honor today as somebody that you thought about as a child? You know, or later that you honored as being a pioneer woman? I guess I better not say pioneer because that has a different connotation.
Well, I mean, one of the
Who do
most
you honor?
famous ones that ended up dying for her being on the cutting edge was Madame Curie.
Right.
You know, I mean, she didn't even understand what she was dealing with, dealing with radioactive things. But thanks to her, I mean, she changed medicine because of the X-ray.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, I think of Anne Frank.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was one of those books that we were made to read in elementary school. And she impacted my life. Like I remember reading that book very young and just thinking, wow, a little girl that impacted, a whole time period. And then, I mean, I didn't know about those things, and she kind of opened my eyes to a worldview.
Right.
So
well, the woman that actually had the most direct impact on me was my mom. And it's interesting in hindsight looking back at my mom, because while she's my mom, right? So I have this, sort of impression of her as nurturing and loving and sort of your safe space as you're growing up and, all that. My mom, funny enough, I didn't realize this till I got older, was kind of radical. And the two areas that she was really proactive about, one was we had been raised, our family was Roman Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole clergy abuse thing actually, I don't want to say it started, but it came to light in a big way in Milwaukee. And my mom was sort of on the front line of challenging people in religious authority who for centuries had never, that was just like a bastion of authority that you just did not scale. You didn't go near there. And here's my mom, my little old house making mom, who's like right on the edge, like going, this is not right, right? And then the second thing was civil rights.
Yeah.
My mom, was really strong about the whole issue of civil rights. And I may have shared this story before, but when I was about 10 or 11 years old, we went to visit my grandparents in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
My grandparents had a black maid. And Margaret always ate out on the porch, the screened-in porch in the back, while we all sat at the fancy dining table for lunch with my grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom decides to go in the back, grab Margaret, say, no, you're going to come and eat lunch with us and sit at our table.
Mm.
And got a chair and sat her down. And I thought my grandfather was going to have a cornea right there. He never said anything. He just bit his teeth and got bright red and everything. And then I remember after Margaret went home about 3:00, my mom and my grandpa up on the third floor of the house screaming at each other.
Wow.
And this whole battle, about equality. And I was like, wow, my mom's strong. Like she was always this sweet nurturing thing, but she had this whole other side of her that was about justice and honoring other people and treating humans with respect. And so I honor her for passing those things down to me.
Wow. Yeah, I would say I've been thinking about it, and my grandmothers, I had really strong grandmothers, and as I've processed all of that, I had really strong great grandmothers. That's why. And it was kind of, I wouldn't say, it was just kind of passed down that the women were the heads of their households at that time, which was not common. Here, I'm going to end our Clubhouse thing. I just wanted to try it out. I can hear the echoes.
Yeah.
you don't mind. So we're going to end our Awakenings Within Clubhouse thing, but I would like to do that and start a room at some point and have us all on there. So I was just trying to test it out and get you guys to know, how to get on there and everything. If you need an invite, I have some, but yeah, I think people, I think people do honor their grandparents and their mothers and grandmothers and everything. But I mean, but I think of other people who I honor, like I said, Anne Frank was a huge, and the women in the Bible, that I learned about, of course, Ruth, and, Mother Mary, of course. And then, Mother Teresa. I always think of Mother Teresa. I heard about Mother Teresa so much. And, my mother was a strong person also. She started out as a file clerk and became a VP in a mortgage company. So, she was a pretty strong woman in my life.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And so, a file clerk, and she didn't graduate high school, all of that. And she was kind of in the 60s though, where it was kind of turning, like everything was starting.
Well, you know where the big shift happened. You know who Rosie the Riveter is?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So for those of you that are of a younger generation, Rosie the Riveter was an image that came out during the Second World War. And the reason why this is so significant is that, 2 million men basically shipped out and went overseas. And so what ended up happening was, in order to keep the American military armed, a lot of the big companies like Ford and GM and all that,
they all had to go in
factories, right?
Yes.
But they didn't have workers. Well, up to that point, women weren't really in the business world. They were, it was, basically stay home, have kids, cook, right?
Right.
So it started in the 1940s, where women ended up getting out into the workforce. And without women in those factories, and as not only just as on the assembly lines, but I mean management positions, and those kind of things. I mean, they were the ones behind the war effort. They were the ones that kept they were. If you understand anything about the military, the supply line is as crucial as the people on the front lines. So women became a huge force in American society, right? And that's where the shift started. And then you sort of had the 50s where there was still that lingering image of the woman who's baking, cooking, babies, serving her husband. And then the 60s came along, and it pushed it again to a whole nother level. So you could go back to the 60s, and there's all kinds of interesting women that suddenly started pushing, because probably the men were trying to get back to the pre-40s, you know what I mean?
Right.
Which was really what the 50s was. Let's go back to the pre-40s,
Right. And
there was this little cultural battle for a while, and the 60s ended up being the shift.
Yes. Yes. But did you hear what Fred had said last week, Dr. Holmes, when he said about that she almost didn't graduate medical school because they were afraid that they would come into school just to find a doctor husband.
Right.
But if you heard his story, she was the studier. She was the one with that was studying. And he goes, and he'll always say, well, she was smarter than me.
Well, the thing that you realize is, even in watching them, that while he was the more outspoken one, in reality, was the strong, right? Because in order to do what she did in the 50s, you have to have incredible intentional fortitude. Like, you really got to know, because you're up against a system.
Yes.
Right. And you're up against perspectives, cultural norms, all these things about you with this sex and need to be in this place. Right. And it's like, so she has all this cultural bastion that she's got to scale.
Yeah.
And she did it. And she did it well. And she has a legacy. And so I was very impressed, even though she was kind of quiet. She was an impressive woman.
She is. When her and I talk about stories, she's the one that that's the thinker. She kind of
Mhm.
thinks and processes and kind of says, well, this was going on then, or, and I mean, she's just as much of an author as he was. And also, what's really neat about them is they both sing. Like, she was a singer also. She
Right.
was a tenor, though. She was a tenor. So she always did a tenor in the barbershop quartet that they were in. So she was just an amazing, and she comes from a really neat family. So she impressed me. As soon as I met them, I was like,
one of the movies that I really enjoyed that came out in the last few years was the movie Hidden Figures.
oh, I love that movie. Yes.
Right? I
Yeah.
mean, that's a classic sort of story, and even though it's dealing with sexism and racism, so it's sort of a double whammy. But
Yes.
the truth of it is the truth that was behind that movie, besides those two issues, was there's a lot of things through history that
Yes.
women were actually the driving force behind that men got the credit for.
Yes.
Right. And so that's one of the things I really, really like about the movie.
Michael's talking about somebody in his founder of his church.
Yeah, Grace Ketterman, amazing woman.
Wow. Something about the name Grace, huh? Something about the name Grace. Yes, but I mean, it's been an honor, to know her, and it's been an honor, and I can see why she has such wonderful daughters, and you can see that the legacy that you leave. It's the same with my mother, and my grandmother had to go to work at some point, but she made little shoe appliques, when,
Right.
when you could take and put it on dress shoes. My grandmother at some point had to do that. And she had to do a lot of different jobs. I think she worked at the chicken farm with my great grandfather. He had out in St. Louis, outside of St. Louis, they had a place there, and she had to help out during the Depression.
Wow.
So it's,
well, there's a saying, life is caught, not taught.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I have seen just, in my counseling practices or my sociology is how the people around those pioneers are then themselves pioneer, meaning that you catch it. Like when, it's who you hang around with has a huge impact on your life. And so it's fascinating to see that. And so, women, you hang around women that have sort of broke the glass ceiling or been a pioneer, it's infectious. Like it gives one faith in their own capabilities. It gives you a sense of vision of what might be, you catch it, right?
Right. Well, the problem is when, and I know this in working in being in the workforce, is when you're a strong woman that is a leader. I've found that sometimes that intimidates people, and then that doesn't get a good reaction, is what I found. And they become your adversary, which is not which in no means, just like with anyone, competition is competition, and I get that. But because I was a woman, that was almost worse, so I have come up against that even in our generation, in our era, of trying to get ahead. And what's neat about, and the reason why I wanted to try Clubhouse today, what I found on Clubhouse, and some people are like, oh, it's the new thing, it's the, is that people let everyone speak. And that's what I like about it. The equality of that has been really neat to hear and listen to. And so if you ever have time to go and just listen to a couple podcasts, it isn't all about people just wanting to speak. It's really a good place to hear diversity. It really is. And from men and women, and every You know, I've listened to more people with the different accents, and it's been awesome. You know, if you don't have a good worldview and you're not around cultural stuff, I think it's a good place. So anyway,
well, one of the things that we have to realize is, you know, while we have all these discussions about all the isms, the truth of it is that change takes a very long time. It takes generations.
Yes.
So the reason why this is crucial to understand is for thousands of years, men served a certain role because of their physical strength, right? So men were the ones that survival depended on.
Yeah.
Right? They were the hunter-gatherers. They had to go out and slay the beast to bring home food for the wife and children, right? They had to put their lives on the line to fight, you know, invaders, people that wanted to come and steal their food, right? So for, you know, so because of our survival instincts, roles were set up, right? Yes. Well, over the course of time and humanity and technology, all this stuff has changed. And so what's happened is our roles are shifting, but that doesn't happen overnight. You know what I mean? No. It's like people just think, well, because I read it in a book, now we're all going to change. That, you know, or we're going to have a TV show and we're all going to talk about it, and now we're all going to change. It doesn't work like that.
No.
You know, society, you know, attitudes, worldviews, our ways of thinking, they take generations to shift. Now, the thing that's happening because of information technology, those shifts are happening more quickly,
faster,
right? A circle
your book
is the RPMs are happening, but it still takes time.
Yes.
So well, if you think about where we've come since the 1960s,
yes,
it's actually in terms of human history. If you would look back over, you know, the thousands of years of human history, the change that we've seen since the 1960s is astronomical. Like, it's off the charts. Like, there's never been a time in history where more changes happened more quickly than in the last 50 years.
But we have to remember, they're always discovering cities that were modernized that were wiped out.
Yeah.
Just saying.
But I'm just talking about general right.
Technology wise, yes. But
I'm just talking about roles and the way we think and how we interact as human beings. I'm putting on my sociology hat here. You know,
I wonder,
cultural change takes time.
Yeah.
It's not, you know, it's like, you know, we have these TV shows and we have moderators and we have all these discussions. And then people kind of walk away with this illusion, like somehow or another, it's all going to be different now. Well, it slowly gets different. Right? Well, it's like peeling an onion. It just takes time. Yeah. There's layers and layers of things, you know.
But what was neat, what Grace said last week in the interview, is that what she found to be true was that everybody's the same. Like everybody's the same. So those ancient civilizations that we keep discovering and uncovering, is that what did we have in common? We were the same.
Well, human nature is the same.
Right. So
I mean, the way those societies interacted was different, though, just because of technology and roles. You know what I mean?
Right.
The ancient world was literally a constant war. The ancient world was either have or take away from those that have. I mean, it was, you know, the whole of technological.
And you don't think that's still the same way,
right?
You don't think it's the same way still?
No. It's, in other words, the ancient world was primarily driven by survival. So and most of the technology, if you go back and study it, was weapons of war.
Right.
It was about dominating, you know, empire building and all that kind of stuff. Now, are those things all still in play? Yes.
Yes.
But it's become way more diversified. In other words, we're not all sitting at home now, with our swords and shields, getting ready
We're not.
for the raid that's going to happen in 2 weeks by the guys in the next neighborhood.
I am. I don't know about you.
Well, my grandpa, my grandfather was born in 1900 in Chicago. He could kind of tell you, if you've seen the gangs of New York, well, they had the gangs of Chicago. I mean, the ethnic neighborhoods, and all that. But you don't even see that much anymore. You know what I mean? A lot. That's all shifted in the last 100 years.
Right. But if technology went down tomorrow, what would happen?
Well, again, yes, you're absolutely right. If the infrastructure collapses, you're going to see a reversion completely back to primeval.
Right. Exactly. Right.
Exactly. Whoever got the biggest weapons wins.
Yes. Yeah. See, I knew Michael would have one. See, there we go.
A sword.
Yeah. Speak for
No,
yourself.
Michael's got a lightsaber. He's got a lightsaber.
I have a lightsaber too.
Cutting edge kind of guy. So
I have a lightsaber, not a real one. I have a fake one from the dollar store.
Exactly. He's pulled out but no, and the reason why you're actually, now, I mean, we could get all into the hypothetical here, but I was reading last week, I posted an article about the EMP weapons that the Chinese have. Like they are locked and loaded.
They can go like this.
And if they fire those things off, right, and bring the whole electrical grid down, you're going to see a whole interesting dynamic, because we're all so far removed from the land and so dependent on the system.
Yes.
That it could create some interesting dynamics.
Yes. And Heather said she was gone. She's back now. She hopes she didn't miss much. She didn't miss the World of War.
Heather missed the fact we spent the last 30 minutes talking about her.
Yes. And you know what? I want to honor her. And Cheryl, thank you for joining us. I want to honor Cheryl. I think she owns her own business as well. So we have some, and Kathy as well. Kathy, I want to honor you. And Grace was on here as well. Lots of good Grace. Man, Grace is a great name, right? So thanks everyone for joining, and it being International Women's Day for equality. And it's so hard to believe that only in the 1920s we couldn't vote until then. It's just, pretty amazing. I mean, only 100 years.
Even the whole concept of girls being educated. I mean, that was, you know what I mean?
in
Again,
the 1950s, be a physician, right? Like it was not normal,
women had a role to play. There was a cultural expectation of this is your box. And
have you ever watched the show Outlander?
What's that? Say that again.
Have you ever watched the show Outlander?
Oh, yeah.
My favorite ones. Yeah. And of course, it's about Claire. Huh?
You're such a romantic.
It's not a romantic. Well, not really.
Excuse me. That shows.
It can have some bad stuff
with romance and passion.
Yes, Kathy, we're all in this together. So, in Outlander, Claire is a pretty strong personality, and of course, she's from the future. So, and she's a physician, and then she has to, act like she's a healer instead of a physician, because when she went back 200 years, I know way too much about it, don't I? anyway. Well, it's one of my favorite shows. Okay, sorry.
Seditious though.
Huh?
She's seditious.
Oh, she is. Wow.
Because the whole time, what is she doing? She's like trying to secretly tell these women, you got to stand up, right?
That's right. That's her whole problem the whole time.
Me though, what's the lady, the sister-in-law, the one in Scotland, that lady.
Oh yes, I like her.
Man, she
she didn't come from the future.
That quiet, meek, stay in your lane kind of woman. That one, she's like mouthy.
Well, and then the season they're on, there's a lady that lives in America, in North Carolina, blind. She's blind, and it's his aunt. And she's a strong woman, owns her own empire pretty much, so I mean, I listen to me talking about
so what we're really saying here is that actually all through history there's been women who sort of right. So I'll give you another.
Think about some of the presidents.
How about Catherine the Great?
Oh yes.
I mean, you talk about strong. Woo!
Joan of Arc. Mary Queen of Scots, even though she was not very nice.
No, but I'm just saying, women can be
Oh,
ruthless
yeah.
and dominating, and I mean, it's not like, so we got to be careful here with stereotypes and labeling and all that, because
That's right.
when I talk about sociology, I'm talking about cultural worldviews, but
Yes.
there's exceptions all the way through history. I mean, Cleopatra.
Mhm.
I mean, how about Jesus?
Women in the
Mary?
Bible.
Maybe she wasn't a dominant force, in his lifetime, but after he
Yes.
died, she was one of the key leaders, right? Jesus' whole inner circle actually was women.
Yeah. Mary, Martha, Mary. George Washington had an incredible mother. Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just
yeah.
sometimes we just don't know the stories.
Right.
So the cultural sort of stereotypes that we think of through history, I mean, those are very accurate. But one of the phrases I used in my last book was called "yeah, but."
Yeah, but.
Yeah, but meaning, well, here were the cultural norms. Yeah, but then there's this woman and that woman, and you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Margaret Thatcher.
I mean, Harriet Tubman. I mean, you talk about a fierce.
Oh yes.
Right. I mean, this woman was not only up against misogyny, she was up against racism. Right. I mean, and then she's fighting and you didn't mess with her.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you didn't mess. I mean, Harriet wasn't going to back down from anyone.
Well, if you look back at, I remember a day where, when a man was taking on a role, a job position, and they needed to meet the wife to see if she was going to be a supportive role, even for the husband and their role. Yeah. And I thought that was interesting, that they used to do that. They don't do that now, but they used to, that I recall.
Right.
It's because, they know, we had to be supportive in that role. Harriet Beecher Stowe.
Well,
yeah.
Grace Metz is Margaret Thatcher.
Yes.
And forget the politics side of it, but when you realize how stratified English culture is, right?
Yes.
I mean, you talk about boundaries and stratification. I mean, it's locked. It's been locked in for centuries. And this woman, there's a reason why they put iron in front of her name. I mean, she was up against some really, Mike talks about Harriet Beecher Stowe.
Yeah.
Uncle Tom Heaven. What people may not recognize about Harriet Beecher Stowe is that she transformed the whole racial issue in America, but with one book. In fact, when Abraham Lincoln met her, he goes, "Oh, you're the little lady that started this damn war," talking about the Civil War.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Mike's right. I mean, this woman changed, I mean, she really was prophetic in a way.
Yeah. Behind every good man. Yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to sound sexist at all, but I mean, that is what used to happen, is the wife had a role, even if she wasn't up in center, she did. And good ones behind bad men. Yeah. And some good ones. Yeah. That's true, Michael, but yes. So, I mean, I honor all you women that are business owners, and because 100 years ago that didn't happen.
Well, except
for the oldest profession in the world. Except for the oldest profession in the world.
But the funny thing, in America, if you go back to the revolutionary times, it was Martha that had the money. Martha Washington.
Right.
So that's a good woman behind a good man, but it's not always what we see. George had the leadership skills, but Martha actually had the money. And probably one of the favorite miniseries that I've ever watched was John Adams.
Yeah.
And one of the great things about that series is they show how incredibly influential Abigail is in John's thinking. She's challenging him all the time. She's as intellectual as he is, but she sort of has to hide it, right? Because of the cultural norms. But she is influencing him and challenging him on his thinking all the way through, and his values.
Yes. I mean, look at right now, and I'm not going to get political, but I mean, it's our first female vice president.
Yeah.
So women have made it finally into that role. You know, we just haven't made it to president yet. Yet. That's coming. But,
Yep.
you know, I mean, that's honoring. You know, I honor her that she made it to that role, you know, no matter what, politics, whatever. But, you know, it's the first time. So, I mean, and that's amazing, you know, and I honor her for that. And, you know, it's
Well, one of the things that
come a long way, baby.
well, one of the things that I've always thought was an interesting kind of stereotype about women that I've always, you know, just because of the way I think, I've gone, huh, which is this statement: women are the weaker sex. Right? I mean, that's been a kind of you know what I mean? Women are the weaker sex. And I go, okay.
I never resonated with that quote. I don't know.
But that's a really common thing. I mean, it's all the way through history. Women are the weaker sex. Well, the problem with that statement is that may be physically true.
Muscular, maybe.
You know, maybe. I mean, by and large, men are, because of testosterone, physically stronger. But in my experience, I think women psychologically and emotionally are much stronger than men. And damn, I don't know a man who could stand up having a baby. I mean, I don't, you know what I mean? I think most men would probably wuss out at having a baby. You know what I mean? It's like, hello, you know, I mean, so don't tell me women are weaker than men. Like, in what universe are you, you know, are you living here? And again, that's because we stereotype it based on physicality. But women, you know, the thing that I've noticed with women is they bear much pain. You know, I mean,
but that
carry a lot
back to Eve.
What?
It goes back to Eve. We're daughters of Eve, unfortunately.
Right. But I mean,
that had to happen.
Strong to carry that. You have to be strong to carry that. You know, so that's why I sort of challenged.
Well, she's the one that challenged things at the beginning. She's the one. She's the one going.
Why shouldn't we not
know? She was going, wait a minute.
I want to know.
She goes, wait a minute.
But you see, so again, these are
right.
What happens, and again, this is the sociologist in me, but that women are the weaker sex, that kind of gets programmed into you.
Ooh.
Right? You know what I mean? From when you're little, right? So I was talking about that. I did a post, I think over the week yesterday, about, you know, how our family and our society, and then we get programmed because when we come into the world, we're like a little blank disc, right? And then this information gets put into our head. Some of it's taught, most of it's caught.
Yes. And
there's certain default settings that as children, we never even realize we're being programmed with. And that's one of them. Women are the weaker sex, right? And that's sort of a generalized statement. And then you get older and you go, huh? Where'd that come from?
Right.
Like,
I hope that my children wouldn't say that.
Right. But it's weird how
I tried to train them differently.
It's a default setting in people's thinking. And it was that way for thousands of years. And only now are we starting to shift that a little bit, you know?
Well, and that's why it's important to have that cohesive family unit too, though, is if you think, if I think about people and their families, I think about the mom-dad situation, you know, the more successful ones that maybe didn't reach the divorce point. I always saw that it was because they compromised and agreed with one another.
Right.
The mom and dad. I mean, I saw that as an outsider even. So,
but I mean, just look at family dynamics.
Strength. Mm-hmm.
Who's the glue that holds the family together? Every family that I know of, everywhere I've traveled in the world, in every single culture, rallies around mom. Mom is the hub of every family wheel. Dad is he's there, but he's always sort of on the periphery. Mom is at the middle.
Look at Michael says She's a strong woman. She wrestled away my side of the bed I had forever. She made you switch sides, huh?
Wow, Mikey in his elderly age is having to learn to change.
That is a difficult one. If you're used to being on one side of the bed,
yeah,
most definitely, very true. Oh, very true about your mom. Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And that brings you to, respecting women, we're honoring women. Obviously your first woman role model would be your mother. So when you see through the eyes of other women, I think some men, the pitfall is that they look at that lens of other women like their mother, and that can be good and bad.
Right.
If they had a bad relationship with their mother, I hate to say it, when I was dating, in their profiles, the first question I would ask is, how's your relationship with your mother?
Absolutely.
Because I didn't recognize the significance of that until I was married the first time. And that person didn't with their mother.
Oh, in your counseling practice, the majority of men marry a woman like their mother. We marry what's familiar, not necessarily what's healthy. So whatever your relationship is with your mom, you'll marry, because it's familiar to you. So it's like putting on a pair of shoes, warm shoes, and it's like, oh, this fits me, right? And
or they marry the opposite. Like my first married the opposite. Yeah.
And unless it's a really strange situation, and then you swing the exact opposite way.
Right. And so what happened in my situation, my own experience, is that the person married the opposite of his mother. And I was so much more opposite that then he resented that because I wasn't like his mother, but he didn't like his mother that much. So it was a weird, like, you're not like her, but I don't like her. And,
what my point in all this is, it just tells you how much power, or let's use another word, influence women have.
Yeah.
So, it may not always be they're the CEO, like in the stratosphere of the corporate culture, they may not have the big title.
Right.
But women, gosh, Helen of Troy ended up causing a massive war.
Yeah.
So,
here we go.
Women all through history have been incredibly, influential.
Yes. Grace, my mother is woman marries a man to change him. A man marries a woman and prays she doesn't.
Good one.
See, that's my thing, is now I'm like asking in the pre, way of, okay, what's your relationship like with your mother? Or what do you think of your mother? And then that doesn't mean it has to stay that way. A man and a woman, anybody can change their mind and actually make an effort not to project onto another person. It's up to them if they're going to project it or not. It isn't just automatic. You can change that. When I say that, it doesn't mean that you always think that way about women or always think that way because of whatever you think about your mother. But
exactly,
I know that can change. It's not a permanent thing. Every day we have the opportunity and the decision to change our mind on something, and I think people, get caught up in that. Well, because of my dysfunctional family, blah, 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 blah. Okay, let's process all that. And I do this in my coaching. Let's process all that. But now, where are you at right now? And what can you do differently now? Like you can make that mind to change it. So, I think we're in a better place now as in time period of people honoring women, as more than before.
Right.
But I still don't think it's where it should be, but
we're still struggling though, and again, I don't want to, this is a whole other discussion, but one of the dilemmas that we have with the millennials, and I see this all the time, is that there was this idea that men are too strong, so we need to sort of emasculate them and take some of that strength away to make it equal, right? And I understand what was driving it. Well, now what we're seeing with the millennial marriages is that the wives suddenly want the men to be strong. Like there's situations that come along and it's like, well, I need you to be a man. You're like, well, wait a minute. You know what I mean? And this, I mean, I'm just throwing, again, we're speaking generally here.
In general.
You would be surprised how big of a problem this is right now. I have counseling friends out in LA that it's just one millennial couple after another, and she's mad. You know, it was all great while there was no children. Once the children came, the dynamic shifted, and then she suddenly wanted him to go out and be the warrior, the hunter, you know what I mean? All these things. And he's like, well, wait a minute, you know, for the whole first part of our relationship, you wanted it to be this way. And I don't know how to do that now. Right.
Yeah.
And so there's a whole struggle within the male community of millennials about what does it even mean to be a man anymore? So we're still, we're in this awkward state. We're sort of in what I call the teenage years.
I say the flux.
Culturally, it's really awkward.
Well, so can I suggest the two books that come to mind always is the Eldridges wrote Wild at Heart, John Eldridge, and then Captivating by Stacey Eldridge. And those two books to me, if anybody comes to me for counseling, who is a Christian and, you know, wants to pull God into the middle of that relationship, those two books are pillars to a good relationship because it explains it all. And you sit there and you go, yeah, that's me. Yeah, that's me. Yeah, that's what happened. And there is a way, because it isn't about power in a relationship. It's really about grace, forgiveness, and love, right? And so it shows you, you know, how we're made up, why we're made that way. And then it shows you how you can compromise and how you can strengthen that relationship with God being in the center of that.
That's good. Well, we should have a show. I mean, Grace actually stumbled onto something that's just a whole show that we could talk about when she said a man marries a woman to change him. I mean, that is
a whole show.
Biggest. No, but it's again, remember these defaults that we grow up with.
We do have defaults,
settings, right?
Right.
And one of the things that is a huge relational problem is we always want to change the other person to meet our needs.
Yes.
Instead of just accepting what is, right? And that's one of the things that as you get older, you begin to realize that you can't do that. You can't change the other person. You have to accept what is, right? And so the truth of it is we're all broken and dysfunctional, and any relationship, whether it's marriage and friendship, is accepting each other right where we're at in our brokenness.
Right.
And
grace comes in.
This idealized view of what we all should be.
Yes.
It's fantasy. It's not reality. Right. And that fantasy causes so much problem, you know, or expectations or cultural, you know, the religious world, especially, you know, we drive this whole thing, you know, the perfect Christian marriage. And it's like, there isn't one. No such thing. Never existed.
No. Read the Bible and you'll see.
What?
Read the Bible and you'll see.
Exactly.
I mean, nobody in the Bible said this was perfect. I mean, somebody said something about, Proverbs 31 woman. Okay. So we focus on this Proverbs 31 woman, right?
Yeah.
But that was written in the time of King Solomon. Okay. How many wives did King Solomon have? She was one of them. She was
still his idealized view of what he
was one of the wives. He had many others, just saying. So she had time to focus on those things.
Right.
But he had lots of women, wives, you know.
Well, so that's one of the things when I, you know, everybody talks about working on their marriage. And I'm like, no, you work on yourself. The marriage is the fruit, not a root, right?
Marriage is a fruit, not a root. Yes, that's good.
Of each how you interact. Now, yes, you get better interaction skills, but it's, you know, it's a fruit.
Well, if two brokenness marry, then that's the dysfunction. Here comes dysfunction. I mean, and if you're not working, and Kathy said it too, it's all about growth
and personal
development, because loving yourself is so important. And people get that wrong. When I say that, that's not a narcissist way of loving yourself. I'm talking about the healthy way of loving yourself and working on those places, recognizing that you've got issues, recognizing that you need to take care of those issues, for you to be that whole for the other person. So, it just really, that you have to complement each other. I always, was saying, and after my last marriage ended, that, if I were ever to get in another relationship, that person needs to be an addition, not a subtraction.
Right.
They need to be an addition to who I am.
Well, yeah, this is a whole show we're talking about.
Yes.
Here. Like we're
over our time.
Opened up a whole.
I got to go to work.
Worms, because it's not really worms, but that's a big subject we can talk about.
Yes, most definitely.
Like,
I can talk a lot about that.
Hour limit here.
I know. So, Paul, thanks for joining us. His first time watching. Very good stuff. Thank you. We appreciate it. So happy International Women's Day to all you beautiful women out there that are doing it, staying strong, keeping your focus on your goals and all of that. And I honor you all and thank you. And I honor all mothers, everybody, out there, and every woman. So, all right. Take care, Bob.
To Cosmic Women's Day.
Cosmic, huh?
Cosmic Women's Day,
When is that?
Exploring space out there, you know what I mean? We might expand our boundaries. See, we're just thinking international, but maybe
my alien secret.
Women's Day.
You're bringing out my secret.
I know.
Being an alien again. I'm an alien again.
In our,
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Have a lovely day, Bob. See you on Thursday night.
Bye-bye,
See you
everyone.
on Thursday night. Peace out. Oh, I have to do something here. Oh my goodness. Here, I'm going to do a new one.